Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever noticed how so many guys, like almost every guy, eventually falls into the exact same psychological trap in their long term relationships? And honestly, the scariest part? They don't even see it coming until it's way too late. Today, we're digging into the research to uncover these hidden psychological shifts that literally cost mature men their most meaningful relationships. And of course, we're going to look at what the experts say about how to actually fix it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Seriously, have you ever stopped to wonder why some men in their 40s and 50s stay so incredibly attractive, confident, and emotionally tuned in, while others just kind of fade into the background? Like they completely lose their spark, and worse, they lose their deepest connections. Why does that happen to guys who are otherwise super successful in every other part of their lives? So that brings us to section one, the silent relationship trap, and what actually ruins mature connections.
Experts actually call this a silent trap because it's so buried in the everyday routine that guys literally don't see the danger they're in. Now, when we look at what this trap is not about, the list might actually surprise you a bit. Losing that deep connection? It has absolutely nothing to do with getting older. It's not about the money in your bank account. It's not about your physical appearance, though, hey, hitting the gym definitely never hurts. And it is for sure not about bad luck. It comes down entirely to psychology. If we don't grasp the mental shifts going on behind the scenes, we can easily tank a great relationship without ever realizing what the heck went wrong. Moving on to section two, the myth of maturity and how logic becomes a trap. Society feeds us a ton of myths about what it actually means to be a mature man. And it turns out those well-intentioned beliefs, they often completely backfire. And this brilliantly illustrates the disconnect. On one hand, we have the expectation. We think as we age, we need to have everything perfectly under control. More logic, more stability, more, worldly experience. But then look at the reality. By trying to be so flawlessly logical and tightly controlled, men actually end up becoming more closed off, rigid, and emotionally distant. And that right there, that is exactly what actively kills attraction in a long-term dynamic. The material points out this undeniable truth. A partner connects with what she feels, not your life's resume. I mean, think about it. You might have your life totally dialed in, the great career, the solid finances, absolute stability. But if you fail to create genuine emotion, there is zero real connection. It's like you're just two people sharing physical space, not actually sharing a life together. All right, let's hit section three, why emotional connection dies and the gradual cooling of love. Let's move to and see how this builds. We really need to look at how this emotional distance sneaks in over time. See, it usually happens because guys mistakenly try to protect themselves in this very specific, kind of predictable decline. First step, they stop taking risks. They just want to play it totally safe in the relationship. Then, step two, they stop showing who they truly are, keeping all those deep feelings buried right under the surface. And finally, step three, they start building walls to protect themselves. Now, to a guy just wanting to maintain peace and stability, this probably seems perfectly logical, but in reality, it just makes him predictable, distant, and honestly incredibly hard to read. And that brings us to this massive aha moment from the material. It's a hard truth that practically no one tells you. Love doesn't maintain itself. It just doesn't. So many guys hit a certain age or, a major milestone, and they mistakenly think, well, I don't need to prove anything anymore. I've arrived. Boom. That exact thought, that is the fatal mistake. That is literally where the whole decline starts. Because once that ongoing effort stops, this inevitable chain reaction kicks off. First, the focus on the little things completely fades. All those small, essential gestures just vanish. Then, true listening stops. A guy might hear the literal words being said, sure, but he completely misses the underlying emotion. And from there, the relationship cools off, much like a fading flame. It's rarely some massive sudden explosion, right? It's a slow, almost invisible fade. And the tragedy is, by the time he finally wakes up and realizes he needs to do something, it's almost always too late. Which brings us to a major turning point in our explainer today. Section 4, redefining true vulnerability and dropping the mask of control. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is to actually get this, we have to completely smash the idea that vulnerability equals weakness. It's just false. Instead, vulnerability is redefined here as the ability to express what you feel, be genuinely present, and just stop hiding behind a mask of control. Let me be clear, it is absolutely not a weakness. True vulnerability is literally the engine of emotional connection, period. Hiding behind that tough guy mask just to look strong or stable, all that does is create an instant, massive disconnect with your partner.
So let's look at Section 5, Evolving How You Love. This is the psychological solution for lasting attraction. So how do we actually fix this? Well, we need some actionable steps, starting with this absolute core principle. Routine eventually kills desire, but emotion keeps it alive. You see, attraction in a mature relationship isn't about trying to impress someone with flashy stuff anymore. That ship has sailed. It's all about making them feel calm, deeply understood, connected, and emotionally vibrant. If you just settle into a comfortable but super rigid routine, desire's gonna die. You really have to actively create genuine emotion. But what does that actually look like in practice? The source highlights these specific, incredibly rare traits of a highly desired man, and I want you to notice something here. It is all about how his presence makes someone feel. He offers focused energy and deep listening. He projects this rock-solid confidence without tipping over into arrogance. He shows genuine interest without an ounce of desperation, and he maintains a deep calmness without ever coming across as cold. Now, why this matters to you is simple. If you can cultivate these specific traits, you're going to stand out. You stay desired without having to try so incredibly hard just because of the vibrant emotional environment you're naturally creating around you. So the crucial point is it all comes down to a really stark contrast. As guys age, we typically knock it out of the park when it comes to logical growth, right? We advance in our careers, we build up our finances, we accumulate all this great life experience. But we completely neglect the missing piece, growing in how we love. We just halt our emotional evolution. And since we've already established that relationships run on connection, not logic, failing to grow emotionally means all of that amazing logical success kind of loses its value inside the partnership. I absolutely have to highlight this incredibly powerful quote from the material. It's not your age that determines your value in a relationship. It's your ability to connect. Honestly, I find this so empowering because this emotional ability, it isn't some fixed trait you're just magically born with. Not at all. It can be learned. It can be practiced. It can be fully developed over time. If you master this, if you truly evolve emotionally, you aren't just going to improve your relationships. You are going to completely change the way people see and experience you. So I'm going to leave you with this final, really vital question to chew on today. Will you choose to evolve emotionally, or are you going to let your relationship slowly fade away? The psychology is literally right there in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Definitely take some action on what we've talked about today.